Hey guys, how's it going? It's the end of the day for me and I'm trying to put this together really quickly and I don't have an intro for it, so I'm just coming on here to give you guys a little bit of a warning. This video I filmed on my phone at Monrovia. It's the presentation that they did of new 2024s and new 2025s coming onto the market. I was very into the presentation and sometimes I wasn't paying attention to the camera and it just kind of drifts off sometimes. So you've been forewarned. I'm not putting much editing into this video. This is just like a little extra bonus video this week. So this is your warning. I don't want to hear any complaints about the thing wasn't in focus or Robbie, why are you filming the ceiling? So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There was a lot of really good information and there was a lot of plants that I'm going to be on the lookout for this year and going into next year. There's a lot of things that I'm really excited about. So I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to get in and edit this video so you guys can watch it.
Guessing that's maybe not relevant, just holler. We can, or if you have questions, just holler those two. We can make this collab.
Oh, do you? Oh. You've already got a fan of this plant.
Okay. So first up, we've been really focusing on great front yard shrubs. So that's really what this first group of plants is really geared towards. So Angel's Blush Ailia, fantastic. It's going to look good for much of the year. It's low maintenance. This was the only Ailia in the breeder's fields who's Dr. Durr is who the breeder is. That remained evergreen all the way down to 2 degrees Fahrenheit. So if we think about a long time where it's going to look good in that front yard, this is going to do it for you. It has beautiful green and white variegation and then a nice pink overlay in the cold weather. You can see this is the habit here. It's really nice. A lot of times the Ailia are going to go kind of wonky. They get those long stems that sort of jet out and lose their variegation, but this is really nicely compact, a great well-branched habit. And then next is an Agapanthus. This is Bridal Veil. Super compact, but vigorous grower. So one of the things that we've noticed with our with a lot of compact varieties on the market, especially white compact varieties, we notice that they tend to be a little bit sparse in the container and in the garden, and so the foliage isn't super robust. But Bridal Veil, one of the things we really love is that the foliage is really lush and it does fill out nicely, so it would look really wonderful in a container or even like planted along edgeways or walkways. It's really short, 12 inches tall or so, and it just blooms and blooms like crazy, just for months and months on end. It's just continually blooming. And then another, for that front yard, we're still talking front yard inspiration here, was Sheer Genius Katoni Aster. This is a really interesting plant. Katoni Aster, I at least usually think of a great parking lot plant that produces a nice berry, but is sort of a little bit, sort of common, but Sheer Genius is really quite different and unique. It is a really beautiful, 5-foot by 3-foot wide shrub, but it shears really well. So you can see here, it does create this really beautiful, nice ball of foliage. So if we're looking at alternatives to something like a boxwood, this Sheer Genius would be a really great candidate for that. This was found by Dan Hinckley. So high elevation, right now we have it at zone 7, but it is currently being trialed in a lot of the colder areas. So hopefully we can update this colder soon, but only time will tell. This is a wonderful selection just for that evergreen hedging type plant.
Does it get a berry?
Thank you for asking, and I think that was Jonathan. It doesn't. So theoretically, it was a seedling selection, so it could have a small berry, but it's definitely not something that you notice on the plant. So no, it's not like you would imagine a Katoni Aster to be full of berries. This is more of the evergreen hedging. Next is an Ilex. This is Emerald Boxer, a new plant out of Dr. Reuter. He's the University of Georgia professor and breeder of many great plants. Emerald Boxer is a nice medium-sized shrub, so 6 foot tall by 6 foot wide. You can see this is the mother plant in his field. Dr. Reuter's field. No intervention at all. It's just that beautiful, nice, rounded habit. Wonderful color, good disease resistance, mite resistance. If you're familiar with emerald colonnade at all, it's the same sort of foliage, but this is a different form. So really nice, again, for that front yard garden as we think about that. And then another ilex. Regrettably, this is a new plant, and so we don't have a photo of the berry, but this is a new berrying blue holly. We call it Little One. I heard there's somebody from Ohio in the group. This is actually from Ohio, so it is reliably hardy. And it does produce a wonderful berry through the winter, and it stays compact, so 3 to 4 feet tall by 3 to 4 feet wide, which is a size that we don't have on the marketplace currently for a blue holly that's female. So it really does fill in a gap in the marketplace that we've seen with this berrying compact plant. And then another for the front yard is Thuya occidentalis. This is a nice rounded ball of golden foliage, 1.5 to 2 feet tall and wide is all. While there are a few on the market that by the eye look like this, this is a vast improvement on some of the others that are out there, just sheerly for its sun tolerance, its ability to not burn in the sun. This was taken in our trials in Oregon a few years ago when we had, I think, 4 days of over 110 degrees Fahrenheit. It was totally a crazy time, and our trials weren't babied at all. And I came back to our trial garden, and almost all of the Thuya in trial and in the fields had burnt, especially the golden varieties, but Golden Child had not. This was taken when I came back to check on the trials. You can see just virtually unfazed by the full sun, the lack of water, and the heat wave. So really cool plant, nice golden foliage, and then it does take on that burnt orange as the fall and winter comes. And then another interesting variety, a series of plants that I think of for the front yard is the summer-lasting crepe myrtle. Unlike a lot of the crepe myrtles that we think of that are more like a medium-sized tree, the summer-lasting series is a compact flowering shrub. And so it's really only going to get 3 foot tall by 3 foot wide. And that is for all of these varieties that you see. We have 2 green foliage varieties, the strawberry and the plum, and then 2 dark black foliage varieties, which is raspberry and coconut. And you can see how compact they are. This is the breeder's field out of Israel. Super, super uniform, super short, really lovely, well-branched plants, and quite an interesting form for a crepe myrtle. And these were bred for not only their habits, but also for lots of flowers and early. So they repeat bloom over the season, but they're going to start earlier, which is a big deal. For crepe myrtle, it means that you're going to get, if you live in California, you're going to get flowers in May. If you live up in the Pacific Northwest like I do, that means I get flowers a little earlier, because for me, crepe myrtles bloom really, really late. But these, because they bloom earlier, are going to be more versatile for a lot more people. Also, really wonderful disease resistance. So Cercospora, powdery mildew, these have done really well battling against those. They are virtually disease-free. Flowers for several months of the year. What really helps the flower power on this Limonium is that it is a status, it's a cut flower, and a lot of people use it for dried plants. And so it's going to continually push new blooms out, while at the same time the old blooms dry beautifully on the plant and actually keep most of their color. So it just creates this huge swath of bloom power for a really long time. And it's hardy to zone 5, which is pretty unheard of for a Limonium. Mostly they're zone 8, 9. So having it zone 5 is really fabulous, and that it's drought tolerant as well. And then Katie mentioned to me that this group was really excited about edibles. So we have some really cool edibles to talk about today. And it sort of feeds into this theme of Garden of the into this desire for gardeners to have an abundant landscape. And so one of the newest edibles to our collection is Bountiful Baby. This is a blueberry. As you can see, it is super compact, so 2 to 3 feet tall by 2 to 3 feet wide. Nice, well-branched habit. You can see here, this is no input at all. This is just its nice habit. Blueberries, as I'm sure you all know, again, can get really big and really rangy, but this does stay nice and compact. It also has beautiful burgundy red foliage in the fall and winter. So it makes a great landscape plant as it's ornamentally beautiful, but it also does produce loads and loads of berries with a great flavor, so it's also quite productive.
So Jonathan just brought it in, so everybody can see it live. It was sitting out in the courtyard.
It's so pretty.
Just covered with blossom, like just, gonna have lots of fun on that.
Oh, yeah.
Have you trialed it in zone 10?
Yes, it's low chill.
Yeah, I will say, so you might see this comment, recommended chill hours of 800. That is for the breeder. The breeder is always rather conservative. And especially when we put new plants in, we go with the breeder, but we have trialed it in zone 10 and are finding it to be low chill. So this will be updated very soon.
Is that with evergreens you're doing?
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think this is maybe I don't know if I'm allowed to have favorites, but this is pretty close to my favorite one of the Bountiful series.
I mean, I think it goes straight into what we were talking about a little bit at dinner last night, which is, when we're looking for fruit, we're looking for fruit that's ornamental.
Yeah.
That isn't just going to bear fruit, but it's going to look great in the garden. And from a blueberry standpoint, I don't think there's anything better than that. The amount of flower, which means fruit set on it, is tremendous, but it's got a great habit with very little fruit.
And truly, the fall and winter foliage is just this burgundy red. It's really quite beautiful. And then Bountiful Blue, you guys may know, this is another blueberry in the collection. This is, again, another compact, low-chill variety, 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. And instead of that red foliage, you're going to get blue foliage. So this is one of the bluest foliage that you can find. So again, hitting on the ornamental value, that nice rounded compact habit with beautiful foliage, and then productive as well with its massive amounts of berries that you're going to get. And then we also have Bountiful Delight, which is this was the introduction after Bountiful Blue. We introduced Bountiful Delight. This is one of the top performers in hot climates. So if you're in zone 10, Bountiful Delight would be excellent in your area. It is super low chill, and it is consistently always the top performer in those zone 8 and above climates in terms of flower power and in habit. So really great for hot climates. Again, 2 to 3 feet tall by 2 to 3 feet wide. Really beautiful bright red new foliage in the spring. So again, with that foliage color, just adding another little bit of ornamental value to these berries. So we're talking about garden of abundance with edibles, but we can also think about the idea of abundance in terms of pollinators and bringing that abundance of life in the garden, you might say. So allium is a great crossover for this edible and pollinator garden because it is edible, but it also attracts a load of pollinator plants. Cobalt Millennium is the newest variety. I'm really excited about this for 2024. We'll have it. It is a sport off of Millennium, which you can see on the right is Millennium, and on the left is Cobalt Millennium. So it is a beautiful plant with the blue-green glaucous foliage, which makes it quite special. So you get the same garden performance as you do with Millennium and the same large rosy pink flower, but with this added boost of blue foliage, which we know a lot of people are sort of interested in those calming blue tones in the garden. So this is a really cool new addition. And then Regal Shield's Alocasia. So Alocasia, oftentimes we're seeing the smaller Alocasia that's meant for a smaller pot inside, but Regal Shields is massive. And so I've clumped it here with the Colocasia because I think the use is very similar. It would look wonderful in a container near a patio or near a dining space outdoor, wherever you want to put it. These leaves get up to 20 inches long. They're massive and they're quite easy to grow. We have struggled, we've grown a lot of Alocasia and we've struggled with some, and Regal Shields is, I would say, one of the easiest to grow. And so that translates also to gardeners. Inside and outdoors, you're gonna be successful with Regal Shields, and it's really cool. It's quite upright, and you can see the top of the leaf here is almost a black, and then the back of the leaf, which you can see, is almost purple. So a really cool plant. And then we also have Thai Constellation Monstera, another houseplant. This is more of a traditional houseplant. Really nice texture here, and just that people are really looking for Thai Constellation. We'll have that for this year as well.
Yeah, we saw little little babies of our Thai Monstera.
Do again by making them better and more fit into the modern landscape. And this banana split Daphne is a good example of that. This is an improvement on Aria marginata. It has a super bright yellow variegated margin here. It's much brighter and much wider than Aria marginata, and it's has been more stable as well. So a lot of times Daphne can struggle with reverting back to green in the landscape, but banana split has really stayed that variegated with the variegated foliage.
And the fragrance is overpowering. It's amazing.
Yeah. And then, of course, we can't talk about the classic plant without talking about Hydrangea macrophylla. And if you're unfamiliar with our Seaside Serenade collection, I'll just give you an overview about what makes the whole collection really special. One is that they are compact, so 3 foot tall by about 3 to 4 foot wide, and they are quite rigid. So the stems themselves are super, super strong. So a lot of the old-fashioned varieties are going to bloom, and the bigger the blooms, the more they're going to flop over. And so the stems aren't strong enough to hold up those blooms, whereas Seaside Serenade, they are really sturdy and your stems are going to stand up straight. They also have really thick flowers and foliage. And what the thick foliage does is that it allows it to handle more sun. It's slower to wilt in the afternoon heat than some of the other macrophyllas are. And then the thick flowers allow the flowers to last for months and months and months on the plant. So if you're not cutting them off for a vase, they can last up to 3 months on the plant. And if you're cutting them in a vase, they're going to last about 2 weeks longer than typical garden hydrangeas would in a vase. So really quite impressive traits, wonderful disease resistance as well. And Kitty Hawk is our newest color, and it's this really beautiful pink flower that starts lime green, and it has this sort of star-shaped bract. So really quite interesting pink variety.
And if you acidified this, if you used more acid, you'd get a bluer violet shade.
Yeah, this one doesn't go really, really blue, but you'll get like this nice, like a nice violet color. Philadelphus, another classic plant here. Swan Lake is a new variety of Philadelphus that was selected for its wonderfully fragrant flowers. These are like grape soda. It is just an intense fragrance that comes off of this plant. And the flowers cover all of it. It's a nice 6 foot tall by 6 foot wide shrub, nice well-branched habit. Again, not a lot of input on a gardener's, for a gardener to make this look nice. And naturally it's gonna wanna be rounded, and the fragrance on this is just awesome. And then roses here, I sort of clumped them all so you can see our new additions of roses. our series of Eau de Parfum, which is shrub rose, that we are introducing more fragrance into roses again. For the longest time, breeders were focused on disease resistance and low maintenance roses for the garden. And in doing that, it was really hard to get fragrance in. And so you were getting, fragrance was being lost from a lot of these really fabulous garden roses. But now we've been able to marry those two. So with Eau de Parfum, you have low maintenance disease resistant roses, but they also have a fabulous fragrance. And then here we have Seaside Swirl, which is rugosas. Rugosa roses are super hardy. They're hardy down to zone 3. And they have a fantastic fragrance as well, and wonderful flower production. Rugosa roses are super, super, super tough. If you live near the coast, they're fabulous for coastal gardens. They can really handle a lot of salt. So if you live, I'm from the Midwest, and I know there's a lot of salt on the roads in the wintertime. Rugosa roses would be wonderful for that. They really don't, that doesn't bother them. And they do get a nice golden fall foliage color also.
How thorny are they?
How thorny are they?
So these are not as thorny as regular rugosas, and they also are much more compact. So I know rugosa roses, when you think about them, you're thinking these like monstrosities that send out these incredibly thorny rogue stems. But the Seaside Swirls are still thorny, but they're less so. I would say more on par with like a regular rose, and they're 3x3. And so that's probably, I forgot to mention their most important characteristics, which is their habit and their ability to really fit in well to a modern landscape.
I noticed that there's the rose hip there that seems like a pretty well-formed rose hip. Have you guys tested using them?
Using them for
Like tea and like things like that?
They develop a normal rose hip,
Yeah.
like they color up and
Yeah.
I don't really
we haven't used them that way. We haven't tested the the
We haven't
rose
tasted,
but
but
they do develop nice
I don't
ones.
see any reason why.
Why not? It
Could
looks
They
great.
look like a regular rose hip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're interested in rose hips, this red variety, which is what you're seeing here, they all will produce, but the red is the it produces quite a large rose hip. It's really
Yes.
quite nice.
Thanks.
Okay, and then another rose. This is a miniature rose. It's called Itsy Bitsy Peach. That's what we're looking at here. This is going to be only 1.5 feet tall by 1.5 feet wide. Really petite. And what amazes me about this plant every single year is its ability to bloom consistently in the heat. That's in Visalia, where you guys are, and in Cairo, Georgia, which is near Tallahassee, super, super south. This rose will bloom and look fantastic. We also have a new hibiscus syriacus, the Chateau de Samir. Samir is the newest color in the series, and it's the only double. So you'll see it's double flower. What's nice about the Chateau series is that it's vase shaped and nice and 6 foot tall, so a nice smaller size. And it blooms up and down the stem, so great for flower power in general. We have a new pittosporum for 2025. It's called Potbelly. Typically, crassifoliums are going to be 9 to 12 feet tall, but Potbelly is going to be 3 to 4 feet tall and wide, so significantly more compact, the cutest foliage you'll ever see, and wonderful for the coastal gardens as well.
That's a great name.
We also will have a new Bountiful Blueberry next year. It's called Bountiful Bell. So this is, I have terrible pictures from trials, but just to give you an idea of what's coming. Wonderful foliage here. This is taking about October. It has that sort of icy purple blue foliage color. And then it does have bright pinkish red tips in May and throughout the summer. And then in the fall and winter, it goes dark burgundy. So you get 3 distinctive different foliage colors. And then more edibles that are coming. Fruit snacks.
Fruit snacks.
Katie, you were talking about these earlier?
Yeah, last night we were talking about fruit trees in smaller spaces. And the idea of the vertical or columnar, style tree. That that picture that you have in the bottom center just looks crazy.
Yeah, they're pretty phenomenal. They're, these are going to be 12 feet tall by 3 feet wide. So perfect for the urban gardener. And they come in a lot of different varieties. And they still flower really nicely, which is another bonus of an apple tree in the yard. They also have a good rust and apple scab resistance. So when you think of having a home orchard, a lot of people are intimidated because they think it means a lot of spraying. But these have been bred to where you shouldn't have to spray. You shouldn't have to have a big spray schedule to keep these looking good.
So these are not yet.
And then lastly, a challenge.
Question.
Are any of those columnar apples available?
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes, but in really, really, really small numbers.
Like you have to know somebody.
We have none at this nursery. They're in Oregon at our other nursery, and we also have some at our Connecticut nursery. They can't ship from Connecticut
To California. Yeah.
but we do have a few in Oregon, but not many, like 8.
Yeah. Like when he says not many, I'm like, I don't even listen to it.
So it's really 20. We've got a large order in because we buy these in Beirut. Growing in the ground for 3 years. They're kind of slow, which is why they grow that way. But we should have bigger numbers.
Are there any low chill varieties?
Most of this breeding is all from Russia,
Oh wow.
believe it or not. And it was done decades ago, and it got lost. When the Iron Curtain came down. So then it got picked up in Czechoslovakia, and then they crossed some of those old varieties, and they've got this is new stuff, but I don't believe any of it's going to be super low chill because of where the breeding work came from, which is why we're really kind of growing these more in Oregon and Connecticut right now than here. But they haven't been tested, so I don't know. But just looking at the breeding of where they came from, I'm guessing they're going to be more low chill.
Okay. Lastly, a challenge that you can tell Katie and Jonathan your ideas. We need a name for this new clematis.
Yeah.
We'll have it in 2025.
So pretty, right? It's a double.
It's really pretty. It blooms in like late spring, a ton of these purple blooms, and you can see them here. The underside or the back of the petals is this silvery white, and so you can see that at the same time. And then it'll re-bloom again, a smaller amount of blooms, it'll re-bloom again towards the end of the summer. So, my challenge for you, if you have a name.
We have one. Petticoat.
Petticoat.
Oh,
Her
purple
petticoat
rain.
is nice. We might already have something like that.
Oh, Prince.
Purple
Prince.
petticoat. Oh yeah,
like
there's
it.
Prince.
Oh,
She's taking notes.
Double Prince.
Double
Yeah, that was all that I had for you guys today.
Well, that was great. Thank you. That was awesome.